In the quiet, middle-class suburb of Fleet, Hampshire, England, life for one family seemed idyllic in the early 1980s. Marion, born in December 1966, was the youngest of three daughters to Anne and Trevor. With her older sisters, Shirley and Sally, Marion grew up in a loving home, where her father worked as an engineer and her mother nurtured the family. Those who knew Marion described her as shy, yet intelligent, studious, and full of quiet humor. She excelled at school and loved netball, but her true passion was music, particularly playing the clarinet in the school band. At just 14 years old, she dreamed of becoming a teacher, and her future was brimming with promise. But on a seemingly ordinary Saturday morning of June 6, 1981, that promise was forcefully extinguished. It was a crisp day, with the sun filtering through the trees along the Basingstoke Canal, a picturesque waterway that wound through the Hampshire countryside. Marion, dressed in a fawn anorak, blue jeans, and brown plimsolls, kissed her family goodbye at around 9:10. Her father, Trevor, had a cricket match planned, so with their blessing, she set off on her blue Raleigh bicycle, for a 5-mile ride to youth orchestra practice, at the Wavell School in Farnborough. Strapped to the rear rack was her clarinet in a leather case, along with a school sponsorship form. She pedaled confidently along Velmead Road, onto the A323, and then Laffins Road, a path hugging the canal's edge, a route she knew well. Unbeknownst to Marion, danger lurked in the dense undergrowth near Laffins Road, a secluded spot less than 2 miles from Aldershot Garrison. Sometime between 9:30 and 10 a.m., she was ambushed. Her attacker was later identified as a 24-year-old called Tony, a lance corporal and chef in the Army Catering Corps, stationed at nearby Browning Barracks. He likely waylaid her, forcing her off her bike and into the woodland. In a frenzy of brutality, he inflicted severe blunt force trauma to her, which rendered her unconscious. He then essayed her, and constricted her airway with his hands, until she passed away. Her body was callously concealed in a copse about 30 feet from the path, her bicycle tossed into the canal, and her clarinet case discarded in the water. Witnesses later reported seeing a young, dark-haired man fleeing toward Eelmore Bridge, and suspicious vehicles nearby, but in that moment, the canal's serene waters masked the horror unfolding. As the hours ticked by, anxiety gripped the family household. Marion was expected home by 3:30 p.m., but when 4 p.m. came and went without her arrival, her mother and sister Shirley retraced her route on their own bikes. Their hearts sank when they found the discarded sponsorship form, one sock, and a plimsoll scattered on Laffins Road. Rushing to the nearby Army Golf Club, they alerted authorities. By 5:20 p.m., a police dog handler uncovered Marion's body in the undergrowth, a grim depression in the soil beneath her head from the savagery. The next day, a canoeist retrieved her clarinet case from the canal, and divers located her submerged bicycle. The news shattered her family. Trevor would forever regret not driving her that day, a torment that haunted him for decades. Hampshire police sprang into action, launching one of the most intensive investigations in the force's history. Over 24,000 people were interviewed, including 1,500 military personnel from Aldershot Garrison. Door-to-door inquiries blanketed the area, and questionnaires probed movements on that fateful morning. A week later, a televised reconstruction featuring a female police officer, cycling the route in identical clothing, her hair dyed to match Marion's, yielded 97 new statements and sightings of potential suspects. Numerous leads were followed, and appeals for witnesses were made, but all fizzled out. Forensic evidence, including male bodily fluid traces on Marion's body, jeans, and sock, was meticulously preserved on microscope slides, free of contamination. Yet, without advanced technology, the case went cold by early 1983, leaving a shadow over the community and suspicions of a serial offender, with possible links to other unsolved unalivings. For 21 agonizing years, justice eluded Marion's family. Periodic reviews kept the file alive, but it was the dawn of DNA advancements that reignited hope. In September 1999, Operation Vortex employed low copy number, LCN, DNA testing to extract a full profile from the preserved samples. Over 3,300 individuals were re-questioned, and 580 swabs collected, even from as far as Australia. A February 2000 episode of BBC's Crime Watch UK profiled the case, describing the perpetrator as prone to unsafe behavioral outbursts, remorseless, and likely responsible for other crimes. Then, in August 2001, a breakthrough. The DNA matched an entry in the UK National DNA Database, from Tony, now 44, a security guard in Leicester with a history of DV. His sample stemmed from a 2001 arrest for assaulting his second wife, Michelle, who reported fractured ribs after she threatened to leave him. Tony's background painted a picture of a man hiding dark impulses. Born in April 1957, in Leicester, he had served in the Parachute Regiment in Northern Ireland before joining the Army Catering Corps. In 1981, he lived in married quarters near the crime scene with his first wife, Lynn, who was pregnant at the time, and their infant daughter. Questioned during the initial probe, his alibi of being at the mess hall held, but it was unverifiable. Discharged in 1982, he worked as a lorry driver and salesman, divorcing Lynn in 1984 amid unsafe behavioral outbursts, and went on to marry a woman called Michelle in 1988, fathering 6 more children. On September 6, 2001, he appeared at Hinckley Magistrates Court, facing assault charges. Whilst there, police arrested him and he was transported to Aldershot for questioning, where he denied everything, claiming the DNA must have been planted or transferred innocently. "That's impossible," he protested, but detectives countered that DNA wasn't even known about in 1981. The trial at Winchester Crown Court began on April 8, 2002. Prosecutors presented damning evidence, DNA matches from 3 sites on Marion's body and clothing, with odds of 1 in a billion for a random match. Tony took the stand, insisting innocence and suggesting contamination. In a tense cross-examination, the prosecutor pressed, "She was essayed, she was 14. A child? She's got your bodily fluids on her." Tony faltered. "Well, where did your DNA come from?" asked the prosecutor. After just 3 hours of deliberation, the jury convicted him on May 10 of SA and unaliving Marion. Sentencing him to life in prison, with a concurrent 10-year term for SA, Judge Broderick condemned the cruel and callous act, stating, "The anguish that your action must have caused her parents, her family and friends, probably cannot be imagined by anyone who hasn't had to suffer that loss for nigh on 21 years, and hasn't had to contemplate those final brutal moments of her life." Tony merely shrugged, saying, "I can't believe it." The family found bittersweet relief in the verdict. Marion's sister Sally stated, "Today marks the end of 21 years of agony for our family. The pain of her passing remains, and no verdict will bring Marion back to us." Shirley added, "Nevertheless, we're grateful that Marion's unaliver has been brought to justice." Tony's first wife, Lynn, stated she was badly injured at the time of the incident, due to one of his unsafe behavioral outbursts, a few days earlier. She called him a psychopath, adding that she saw scratch marks on his arms, while he was playing with their toddler child, but didn't suspect him of being the perpetrator. Due to the severe emotional impact of Marion's passing, her mother, Anne, had been institutionalized, and sadly passed away in 2002, soon after the trial concluded. The case inspired a 2003 BBC documentary, highlighting forensic triumphs. Tony's 2014 appeal, claiming a DNA irregularity due to a chromosome disorder, was dismissed by the Court of Appeal as fanciful, affirming the conviction as entirely safe. In prison, he later admitted guilt and expressed remorse, but parole bids, including one in 2022, have failed. Commenting on this parole bid, Marion's heartbroken father, Trevor, then 84, said, "I hate Tony. Given the right opportunity and a pew-pew. Well, you can guess the rest. Alternatively, I would pull the trapdoor. I'm old and dilapidated, but, while I'm still here, I don't want him free." Marion's story endures as a testament to perseverance and scientific progress, transforming unimaginable loss into a beacon for cold case resolutions. Yet, for her family, the void remains, a young life stolen, a community's innocence fractured, and a sick shadow finally banished by the unyielding light of truth. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. And, if you'd like more true crime, please like, subscribe and hit that notification bell.